I spent most of my career on Capitol Hill. I worked on the House Financial Services Committee, I worked on the Senate Banking Committee, and I worked at the Treasury Department.
Hi, I'm Ross Gates from Alphagrowth. Today we're at the Crypto Invest Summit in LA, and I'm here with Dina from Paul Hastings. Dina, great to have you.
I'm really honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming to tell your story.
I'm happy to do it, and I'm happy to be out in LA because this is really the center of the universe when it comes to.
Well, I would argue that San Francisco is, but
well,
this is
say
equally
California.
as important.
California
Yes,
is
for
one
sure.
big beach where you see tons of, talk about sandboxes, you see tons of innovation.
Exactly. So Dina, tell me about your background in innovation, lobbying, technology.
Sure. So I spent most of my career on Capitol Hill. I worked on the House Financial Services Committee, I worked on the Senate Banking Committee, and I worked at the Treasury Department. And most notably, when I was working for Senator Toomey, who was on Senate Banking, I wound up working on most of the Jobs Act, the Jumpstart Our Business Startups Act,
Nice.
which made it easier for companies to either raise capital in the private markets or raise capital in the public markets.
Gotcha. And so through your work with the Jobs Act and a lot of businesses being made, you got into crypto?
I know. Well, they're really interconnected with each other because a lot of the players in the crypto space, they either lobbied for the Jobs Act, they grew out of the Jobs Act, or their business models are based off of the Jobs Act. And the reality is that the other interconnection is that I know some people don't like to hear this, but most ICOs or STOs are really just private placements that are using the exemptions from the Jobs Act to raise capital.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that. But you're still in lobbying, and so you want to change that or you want to help it. What direction should it go in?
Yeah, well, I would say that the Jobs Act, when I was working on it, most of my background had been in the banking space before I got into the securities law space with Senator Toomey. And what I noticed was the laws were really arcane. So we were still stuck in 1933, 1934, and 1940. And so what I would say is that the banking laws have been modernized a couple times right now, but the securities laws are still rooted in the Depression era when we were trading pieces of paper on the street. So there's a lot of effort. Jay Clayton, when he first came in, one of his first speeches was about the importance of easing up on regulation to make it easier for companies to raise capital in the private markets or the public markets. And at the same time, you have the Hill. They've passed piecemeal provisions to make it easier to raise capital, but they're also working on a Jobs Act 3.0, which has a number of provisions in it that will make it easier for companies to raise capital in both the private or the public markets.
Through crypto or just specifically for everyone?
For everyone. I really believe that the crypto market, it may not have started this way, but all the energy that we saw sort of in the ICO craze, particularly in 2017, I don't think it started this way, but I think some of the craze had to do with this pent-up frustration that our securities laws haven't kept pace.
Right, and they wanted to find something that could kind of circumnavigate the securities laws,
yes,
so they could do this thing they always wanted to do.
Right, and some of it I think was, intentional, and some of it I think was innocent and people just not understanding that you were going to need to comply with the securities laws.
Gotcha. So you're here at the Crypto Invest Summit. What are you hoping to find? Who are you hoping to connect with?
Well, the industry is just changing so rapidly. I just took a client around recently on Capitol Hill, and she was talking to me about their DLT technology.
DLT?
Digital ledger technology.
Is that better than blockchain?
Digital ledger technology is, blockchain is a form of DLT, but a lot of DLT technology doesn't use blocks or chains anymore, and does not use mining, and is much more efficient than the old technology. We needed blockchain to get to where we are today, but they're just much better technologies out there.
Gotcha.
So I figured coming to a conference like this where you're going to have a lot of technologists, that I would learn more about the industry and where it's going, because it's moving so fast. And also, I thought it would be good to be at this conference because I spend a lot of time on Capitol Hill, and I want to be able to tell people on Capitol Hill and in the SEC and the CFTC what's going on out in California, because there really is this divide.
Yep.
And maybe it's just the distance between Washington and LA or the West Coast, and I'm really trying to help bridge some of that communication gap.
So if people want to help you help bridge that communication gap, get on board, hire you, work with you, how can they reach out?
They do. A lot of people, they hire me to lobby. They want to be at, like, as if Congress is considering, legislating. About a month ago, there was a roundtable, and I was at that roundtable with a client. So, they want to make sure that they're at the table, and they're not eat. If they're if you're not on the menu, you get eaten for lunch in Washington, or your competition throws you under the bus.
Yep.
Some companies, they want to. The SEC and the CFTC and Treasury. All of them have been very open door for my clients, and their view is they're going after complete fraud, but they want to understand this technology, and they don't want to over-regulate it.
And because they're curious about where it's going.
They want to know
really
where
knows
it's
what's
going. They
possible
don't want
yet.
to quash the innovation, so they're trying to go after low-hanging fruit. But they want people to come in there and tell their stories, just like I'm telling my story to you.
Exactly. Gotcha. So that's great. So you work for crypto companies, you take them to Capitol Hill, they tell their stories about how crypto is furthering spaces, creating new technology. It's benevolent, it's not this malicious, like, Silk Road stuff that we used to hear about. You help lobby for the laws that will make it easier for businesses of all kinds to start and entrepreneurs to take off. And then you come around and through that learn all about new technology to further your own curiosity about the world.
Yeah, and I'm also getting to, I'm actually here at this conference. I'm going to be also speaking about what's happening in Washington, D.C. I spent a lot of my time up on Capitol Hill. And so this is a chance to, kind of in the other direction say, okay, here's what we're seeing in Washington, D.C. Here's where I predict the direction of things going, in Washington, D.C.
Gotcha. And are you bullish on what you predict the direction is going?
I would say don't ask me about the elections.
Oh, okay.
Because I had no idea that Trump was going to win 2 years ago. But I think I have a good sense of the direction where things are going in sort of the crypto blockchain space.
So Dina, where is the future going?
I have strong opinions where I think the future should be going. So there's a lot of effort in terms of groups that are lobbying for cryptocurrency. They're still very focused on that utility versus security question. But I think that where things should be going is there's been a ton of lobbying to create this new asset class. But as I mentioned to you before, there's already an effort to make it easier to raise capital. There's Jobs Act, and then the SEC has a great deal of authority to make its own changes to the laws without even Congress. And so I think you're going to see, I think Congress is going to move slow, deliberately. You might have some small bills pass here and there, and they'll continue to have hearings on Capitol Hill. But where I think the SEC and the CFTC and the agencies will start, putting some more meat on the bones as to the way things are going to look.
Gotcha.
I think the other thing that is really exciting to me is we're in inning number 1 here, not even, and reality is the use cases for digital ledger technology are
just being
incredible. And I've had clients that have talked about putting frames of working for Hollywood studios to protect their IP by putting each frame on
a blockchain,
and also showing
DLT?
when anyone makes a change to it. Those use cases are going to drive even more capital formation. I have a client that has tracing fish 20 miles off the shore.
Wow.
So, the use cases, there are the use cases outside of financial services, then there are people trying to rebuild how the back office works in Wall Street, rebuild payments. So I'm really excited for those use cases, and it's even more important for us to get our securities laws modernized, because we are going to see a flood of new startups in this space.
Yeah, it's funny how every company is going to have a securities asset to it. Like, it's going to be a hybrid between traditional models and securities.
Exactly.
And there's going to be just so much more out there to regulate, to keep track of, but to help improve the technology we're building.
Right, exactly.
That's awesome.
Well, thank you so much. I'm really honored that you chose me to be part of your interview.
You're welcome.
And it was great to meet you.
It was great to meet you too. It was great to learn all about what you're doing and the different perspectives you bring. And I can't wait to learn more from you as well.
Thank you again.
You're welcome.